What is up, friends? How is everybody doing? It's what day is it? It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday again. Here we are. Got to turn on my lamps. Let's do that. What's going on? How you been? What you doing? What's life like? How's things? We just found out we're allowed to get vaccinated again. So that's good. We're gonna go do that today. Which, I'm not super excited to get a vaccination, but I am excited that I'm allowed to get one. What's going on with this guy? I don't know why this guy doesn't want to cooperate. Let's see. Add another light. New fixtures. I think this battery just might be all the way dead. Which is odd because it was definitely plugged in. Let's see. Maybe I just plugged it in wrong. Guess it just wasn't plugged in. But now does it work? Dang. Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to fix that later. Anyways, what's happening? What's up, Eddie? What's up, Will? What's going on, Leo? Vinny? Bridgewater? What's happening? So let's see. What's new? I have some exciting news. I just got to launch a thing that I've been working on for a really long time. I don't think if I share my, let me see. If I share my screen, also share tab audio. To share audio, share the tab instead. Okay. Let me pull up this tab then, and I want to show you a thing that I made that I'm really excited about. Where does this go? Okay, all right, let me, how do I start this over? You know what? We're going to open this tab instead. And I'm going to share this tab here. Share tab audio, share. All right. Check this out. So this is a thing that I just got to make that I'm proud of this. I'll play it and then I'll talk a little bit about what we did.
You don't have the beta testing. I have the test. Yeah, I don't. Sure.
Okay, customer delight. Now that's what I'm thinking about. And you know what customers love? Confetti. So we're going to do confetti. Huh? That's a word. And that's a word that people like.
Leah, where are the audit logs? Access control, user management? We talked about this.
Compliance isn't an option, okay?
Wait. Yes. Yes. Oh, hey. I'm so glad you're here. We just pitched in this new security data feature.
This is going to be customer so many right here. It's so great.
Some ideas that I have.
Now these are so many. I bet you're just going to put this one, tuck it right there. You're going to remember that one. That's so incredible. They're just going to be keep going like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I just don't know why I shouldn't be able to do whatever I want instantly with like no security problems. What the? Didn't this place used to just suck?
Yeah, it did.
Okay. This is all right.
Okay, so let me switch to a better camera angle now that we're not in the middle of the thing. But what's up, y'all? How's it going? What's up, Jason? How you doing? Let's see who else is in here. What's up, Zachuli? What's up, Abel? Isra? What's going on? So this was Tooljet hit me up. They hired me to help them build like an ad. Basically, they want to be able to run this as a promo. There's a 15-second cut down that they're going to run as a pre-roll ad. This is on their homepage. It's going to live on, a bunch of different places. So the goal here was to kind of tell the story of like what it's like to build internal tools in the current era, and then how something like Tooljet can feel way better, right? So fairly straightforward premise. I think a lot of tech companies have a similar goal and a similar story. But so what we were trying to do is so here's what I got to do. This was really fun. I got to produce, and I was a co-director on this. So we brought together we actually hired actors. So let me get to one of these here, maybe. Yeah, these three. This is Smack Lewis, this is Sam Bangs, and this is Jed Arkley, and they are all professional actors here in Portland. We sourced them to come be part of this. They absolutely killed it. We handed them a script, and then we just kind of said like, hey, just have some fun with it. And they were so damn funny. I really had a good time. There was so much good material that we had to cut because they just kept giving us good takes. I worked with a good friend of mine, somebody that I've worked with in the past, Alex Sivers, who was directing this with me. We had a set design. We hired a production designer. This was a woman named Gwen Hopman Damon, and she had Camille Carpenter helping her. They built out this whole set. And so this was like, we were in this space the whole time. This is a spot called Hyphen here in Portland. It's it's the office of a business that designs offices. So it's like both their office and their showroom, if that makes sense. And they were willing to rent us their space over the weekend, which was awesome. And so we were in this space the whole time, but we brought in this cubicle. And so all of this chaos you see here, you can kind of see it. Let's see, where's like there's a couple like wider shots. You can kind of see like all of these sticky notes and this documentation and everything that was up on these walls. This was made. Like we brought in a bare cubicle, and then Gwen and Camille just spent days on this. They printed out all this stuff. They hand wrote all these notes. They found all these monitors and keyboards and all this stuff, and kind of like put this together to be the like bad place office. And then the other things that were really cool in this one is, so I designed this. This is my art. I don't know if Alex Riviere is here, but I feel like he'd be proud of me. Then what's going on? Josh, what's up? Dev, Ashai. And then what's up? Bro Nifty, what's going on? And then so I designed this part. And that was really funny to me. And then like here we did this scene like when this is all happening. So check this out. Like I'm not playing the audio, but these kind of split screens. Watch this part where here, watch these start to kind of like flutter. Oh, where are they? So she's like, yeah, see the notes are all kind of start like fluttering, then they all fly into this trash can. Okay. That's practical. Like we did that for real. So each of those little sticky notes was like on a fishing wire, and we were well, not me, Gwen and Camille and Sivers were like standing in different positions off camera, trying to like pull them at the right angles to make it look like they were getting sucked off the wall. And then the trash can scene here, where everything flies into the trash can, that's actually shot in reverse. This is the funniest thing. Let me see. Actually, hold on. Let me share a different screen. I'm gonna find what we actually did for this because it's so funny. Let me just I'll stop sharing that screen. Find my Photos app and get the right photo up here before I do this. Where is it? Scrolling through far too many photos right now. Somewhere in here is the tooljet stuff. So here it is. Yeah, here's all right, so let me share this. This is share the screen. Just gonna share the entire screen now. We're gonna share this one. So this is what was actually happening during this this scene with the sticky notes. So this is Gwen, and this is Camille, and this is Cybers. And so Sam has to kind of sit here. We needed to get the camera through, so we took the monitor out. And Camille is holding the trash can steady. We've drilled a bunch of holes in the bottom of the trash can here and filled it with sticky notes. And Gwen is operating a leaf blower. And at the same time, Cybers has a bunch of the sticky notes on a string so that he can, like, when some of the sticky notes are blowing out, he can pull even more of them out, and then we roll all that in reverse, and that's how we get this effect of the sticky notes going back in to the thing here. So that's how that works. Right? Just one of those completely unhinged things. And then this scene here, where this wall falls down, we actually did that. So we had the cubicle walls were all set up, and then we put down a bunch of furniture pads, and we were like, okay, we got one take at this because we didn't want to get the downstairs neighbors all pissed off, and we had people on both sides, and we just said, all right, everybody ready? And then Sam starts typing, and we back away from it. And it just fell onto the furniture pads, and it was real loud, and we got it on the first take, thankfully, because then we didn't have to, go downstairs and apologize to the neighbors for making a ton of noise for a long time. But so then it kind of opens up into this good world, and it all like disappears and is gone. Really, truly, like, so much freaking fun. I don't have a lot of behind the scenes footage. I have more. It's all like photos. So you can kind of see here, like, this is here's our cubicle kind of set up inside of the space. This is how we were kind of crowded in. This is Nathan. This is Gwen. There's Jed back there. And then we had like, this is Callie, who was doing sound. Nathan, who was doing camera. This is Bridget, who did all the lighting. But so it was a really, like, we did a lot. It was, but you can see how gorgeous this office space is. So we just kind of like stood up this cubicle in the middle of it and made a giant mess. And it ended up being super fun. Like, we had a ton of fun with it. Yeah, now that you say that, behind the scenes would have been super fun. I don't know why we didn't do it, but it is what it is, Anyways, this was amazing. Tooljet was super cool. They just kind of, they brought us this idea, and it was a script, and then we kind of rewrote the script to make it work for video, because there was some stuff that they wanted to do that just would have been super expensive. Like, they had some CG stuff that we could have done it, but it's not the sort of thing you can do on the budget we had. But yeah, doing some BTS for future productions would be great. It's always just money, right? Like, we had money for production stills and behind the scenes photos, but we didn't have money for a behind the scenes video, which would have been super cool. That's a good idea. Definitely something that would be good to put on the supporters track so that everybody can kind of see how that stuff works. But But anyways, that's a fun thing that I got to launch that I'm really proud of. I have never done anything on this scale where I wasn't the client. So like the stuff I worked on before, I was very heavily involved in the creative, but I didn't have anything to do with the production. Like I worked with an agency called Color. And so, I get assigned, I shoot, basically I was like, I want to work with this director. And then they give me a producer. The producer recruits all of the different specialists, your gaffers, your production designers, your set decorators, et cetera, et cetera. And all those people are working through the agency. So like I meet them, but you don't really like talk to them. You don't learn what they're doing. You're not really part of what's going on. When you work as the producer, that's your whole job, is to make sure that you've got the right people, that everybody's clear on what's going on, that you've got a really good understanding of what's happening. Because there's like Alex back here is running around all day doing all sorts of things. Like he's got to be making sure that wardrobe, which way back in the corner here, we had an office closed off for wardrobe, and Jillian was back there. And so, Alex is like running back and forth, making sure that everybody's got the right wardrobe things, that people are in the right places. We've got, like here's Jason, who did the behind the scenes photos. His name's Jason Hill, does photography for a lot of the stuff. Like if you've seen the Web Dev Challenge photos, typically that's Jason. But I think we had 15, it was about 15 people on this crew. So it was the biggest crew that I've ever run. It was the most expensive thing that I've been in charge of. Like, it's not the most expensive thing I've made, but I hired agencies in the past. This was the most expensive thing that I've been in charge of, where it was like my problem. And it's also the first time that Code TV has been like fully contracted to do something like this. We've worked on, in the past, we did this, I won't play it, but we did this other one that was really fun. Where am I going to find this? It's on the Code TV playlist. It should be under our Tech Media Productions somewhere. Here. This one. So we made this one, and this one's actually made in the Code TV studio. And I'm not playing the audio or anything, but let me share a link to this one in case anybody wants to actually watch it. But this was one of the very first things I got to make as Code TV, and this was super fun to make. Had a blast. Have wanted to make stuff like this ever since we did this one, and finally am in a position where I can do that. I can make these. So first, super excited, very proud, very grateful that I got the chance to make something like this. Second, I am available for these. So if you or your company are looking to make like promo videos, marketing videos, et cetera, I would love to help you. This was so much fun. I really like making this kind of stuff. We kind of helped talk through the whole integrated campaign. It's in Tooljet's hands now. I think they've got a good plan. I'm really excited to see how they follow through on it. And third, look at this. See this, what's going on? I didn't really think about it, but like, look. I've lost like 25 pounds since we made that video. I don't talk about it a lot because I feel like there's I don't want to be somebody who's like, I'm not like a fitness person, if that makes sense. But I've been like going to the gym regularly since January, December-ish. So approaching a year, and I've kind of continually made progress. It's been great. I've been really happy with it. I'm like in a powerlifting kind of thing. And we're doing I'm doing 4 days a week. Well, I was doing 4 days a week. Now I'm into conference season, and so I'm lucky to get to. But when I'm not traveling, I'm in. And like, even we were at Cascadia last week, we hit the hotel gym, and like, I've never been consistent like that before. So I kind of found the thing that I enjoy, that I'm looking forward to doing. And so like this morning before I came in here, I was in the gym, and I don't know. It's like, it's stuff that I enjoy. Like, I like doing heavy weights, so like today I bench pressed 380 pounds. And if you had asked me 20 years ago what the most I would ever bench in my life was, I would say maybe 315, right? That's 3 plates. And I was like, damn, I would maybe someday I can get there, right? And so like today I hit 380, and I never would have guessed that that was a number that I could hit. And so like it's fun. It's kind of a game. Like I can keep doing that sort of stuff, right? Like it's really really fun to go and do that sort of thing. But you know, also I get to see things like it's little stuff. Like Marissa the other day came up to me and like she hugged me and she goes, "Wait." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "I can close my hands behind your back now." Like she didn't used to be able to get her arms all the way around me because, you know, she's little, but now she can like get her hands together behind my back. She's able to actually like grab her hands around me. So I've lost quite a bit of weight. Happy about that. Gonna keep going. Gonna see, you know what, why not? Like I crossed 40 this year. Why not just wait until my midlife crisis to try and get hot? 355. Damn, dude. That's awesome though. Like, because also, you know, keep in mind, like everybody's different sizes. And I think if I remember correctly, I'm a few inches taller than you and quite a bit broader than you. So 355 is dope. Yeah, dude, getting the shoulders right is a whole hard thing. Like that stuff sucks. I've been going to this woman named Amy Bennett here in Portland. We always joke that if she would have been born 400 years ago, they would have burned her as a witch because she just sort of like understands things. Like I went in and I was like, you know, my foot really hurts. I was having this trouble where it felt like my feet were always just had knots in the bottom of them, like in the arch of my foot. And I had like gotten the lacrosse balls and I was like rolling on them and I was trying to massage my feet and I was trying to stretch them. And I was like, I could not figure out what was going on. And somebody said, you got to go see Amy. So I went and I saw her and I told her what was going on. And she started like poking at my calves. And I was like, what are you doing? It's my feet. She goes, well, you know, remember all this stuff is just like your muscles are just ropes that kind of run around your entire body. And I was like, what do you mean? She started talking about it. And it was like this combination of like massage, and she knows a lot about anatomy. She goes to labs where she like dissects cadavers to kind of see how everything's connected. And so she just started like kind of going at, and she found something in my calf and she started working on it. And I felt my feet release. It was magical. So anyways, if you can find yourself your local witch, and then they'll get you fixed up. Yeah, exactly. Like being able to like do little things that make you feel, you know, hey, it's been a while since I've been able to put on like this is an XL. I've been wearing 2XL for a really long time. And I feel like when I put this on at first, I was like, oh, I would wear this as an undershirt, but it's way too tight. And then I put it on today and I was like, dang, I'm actually kind of okay with this. She's like a combo physical. She calls it body work because it's not really, it's like part physical therapy. It's part massage. It's part like deep tissue work. She is not a chiropractor, but there's like that understanding of how the skeleton works as well. So usually what she's doing is she'll talk about like in your arms, for example, you don't just have like a muscle there. You've got these sort of cords of muscle. And so if you kind of look at the way, like as my arm moves around, you can't really see because it's not in focus and I have tattoos, but like there's like one muscle here and there's another muscle here. And then there's another one that kind of wraps around here. And so what she'll do is there's the muscle and then there's this sort of like sleeve of tissue that keeps your muscles separate from other muscles, if that makes sense. There's the fibers of the muscle, and then there's this sort of like sheathing, and then there's other muscles next to it. And she usually is looking for where the sheathing has sort of bound up with the sheathing of another muscle. So usually you've got muscles that would move like this as you kind of move your arm and everything, and then they'll sort of get knotted up. So now your arm muscles can't move here. So it starts to put pressure on joints, right? So if you feel pain in your wrist, it's usually something above or below it. If you feel pain in your knee, it's usually something above or below it. And so she'll say like, oh, your wrist is hurting. Let's look here. And then she'll find that like, oh yeah, this one is actually really bound up. So she'll like kind of put pressure on it and figure out the right way to hold it and have me do something with my thumb that like causes this one to move a little bit, but this one sort of staying still. And that pulls them apart. So they start moving again. and that releases the tension that was causing me the joint pain. It's really interesting stuff. Like she can always explain what's going on. I'm doing a bad job of explaining what she's talking about, but that's sort of like the super high level. And she's also good at explaining it in a way that makes me not feel like I have no idea what's going on. Like she's not using all the official medical terms for things. Like sometimes she'll say like, okay, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to hold your arm. Now imagine that your arm is a corn dog and your bone is the stick. And I want you to spin the stick inside of the corn dog. I'm like, oh my God, but it works. So anyways, yeah, I think that's the whole thing. Well, this is something I've been thinking about a lot because I did this thing called a DEXA scan, DEXA. I don't know how common they are. There's only one in the Portland area, and we had to drive out to the suburbs to get it. But the way that it works is it's sort of like an MRI. It's not, but it's sort of like that, where it looks at your body mass in terms of what percentage is bone mass, muscle mass, and fat mass. And then it separates out fat mass by like, I can't remember it's called, visceral fat, I think, which is like fat around your organs versus fat that's just sort of like, your love handles and stuff. Because the visceral fat is the dangerous stuff. That's what'll give you, kidney disease and liver disease and stuff like that. Whereas the other fat is like, obviously there's error bars for everything, but there's, the more you have of it, it's more like aesthetic than it is like dangerous until you hit extremes. But so the DEXA scan kind of tells you like what is your actual composition, so that like how much your bones weigh and stuff like that. And something interesting that happened is I went in 2 years ago, like 20, well, I guess it was even longer. It was like 21, I think. I went in and I got a DEXA scan. And at the time I weighed 270 pounds maybe. And then I went back in February this year and I weighed like 290 pounds. And so obviously I was feeling pretty bad about myself. Like, God, I gained 20 pounds since the last time I did one of these. This is terrible. And then I had actually lost a couple percent of body fat, which was super weird because I didn't know that was a thing that happened. I was like, nah, if you're 20 pounds heavier, you're definitely fatter. And it turns out I was a little bit less body fat percentage. Like I still didn't like the way I looked. I'm not saying I was like, damn, look at me. But it wasn't like, I figured if I gained 20 pounds, that was like whatever percentage of my body weight of pure fat. But I had actually, because I'd been working out consistently, I'd like built muscle mass. And so some of that weight was new muscle. And then the last time that I went in, I'd like lost even more. It was awesome. Like I was really, really happy. I know the shirt is kind of a whole thing. Like talk about fitness, also pizza. Yeah. And then muscle is heavier, the whole thing. So basically I've been trying not to worry too much about scale weight. And if my scale weight starts to drop really fast, I've actually started to worry that I'm losing muscle, whole thing. But that's not what we're talking about today. Well, I guess we are, but it's not the only thing I want to talk about today. Anyways, I wish I wouldn't have waited until I was 40. I should have started this a long time ago. But I think the thing that was hard for me is I needed to find a thing that felt like I could look forward to it. My relationship with fitness has always been really complicated, where in most things, and I say this all the time, you got to find a way to enjoy the process. You got to be kind of looking forward to doing the thing so that the rewards and the outcomes are more of a pleasant side effect as opposed to the entire reason you do something. Like if you suffer in hopes of a reward, it's not usually fulfilling because the reward very rarely lives up to the suffering, and it very rarely lasts long enough to make the suffering worth it. If you like grind yourself into dust so that you can earn a certificate, the certificate doesn't mean that like you get to the certificate and they give you a crown and then you never have to do anything for the rest of your life. You just have to keep working. So like, why were you miserable for so long? And it's the same with fitness. Like I used to have a very reward-based relationship with fitness where I'd kind of think about it as like, okay, well, if I can really like dial in for 3 months, I can lose 25 pounds and then I'll just be like done with fitness forever, I guess. And I never really thought that far ahead, but that was sort of the implied thing for me, was like, well, I can do this for a bit and then I won't have to think about it. And so I would sort of like crash diet and then yo-yo back. And then I would like get frustrated and I wouldn't do anything for a couple years. And then I would get super motivated and I'd be really on for a couple months and I'd lose a bunch of weight, but then it would plateau and then I'd get frustrated and then I'd yo-yo back. And so I had never really thought about fitness in the way that I think about my professional life, which is to find something that I look forward to doing every day, find a thing that I would do. Like if I had unlimited time and unlimited money and I didn't have to work for a living, what would I do? And to be completely honest, I would do exactly what I'm doing now. I would just do a lot more of it. You know, if I was a billionaire and I could just spend money on stuff, like one of the things that I would invest a significant amount of money into is just big, dumb productions because it's fun. There's so many fun things that I would love to make. Just takes money, right? But I wouldn't do anything differently if I could change like what my day-to-day looked like. If I removed the need to pay bills from my day-to-day, I'd still get up and I'd want to make the kind of stuff that I'm making, and I'd want to do things like Web Dev Challenge. And so that was very much an intentional part of the design of my career, was trying to find the things that I enjoyed and maneuvering slowly over the course of 20 years into a position where the things I do for work are the things that I want to do. They're the things that bring me a lot of intrinsic reward just for having done them, not because eventually they'll lead to a promotion or more money or whatever. Like the extra money is great. Certainly not sad about it, but it's not the goal. Like the goal is that I wake up excited to do the stuff that I do. And so I shifted my fitness goals this year to the same thing. I thought about when was the last time I enjoyed going to the gym? And in my 20s, I had this group of friends that were all powerlifters and bodybuilders. And, you know, I was never a powerlifter or a bodybuilder, like competitively, but I liked training with them. It was really fun. We had this whole like group thing going. We called ourselves Team Cobra because we were very cool 21-year-olds. And we made shirts and we would like go lift in the gym together, and we made a couple lifting videos, and, you know, it was just a whole goofy thing where like we were just having fun. And it was the last time that I remember wanting to go to the gym. So when I was sitting down this winter, I got kind of sad in December for a lot of reasons. You know, it was sort of like one of those seasonal crises where you just sort of slow down and you get to think about things and you realize what's in alignment, what's out of alignment. And one of the things that was bumming me out was my fitness. And so I was like, okay, why can't I do this? And I thought about it for all the reasons that I just talked about of making it reward-based versus lifestyle. And then I was like, okay, how do I make this into a thing that I'm looking forward to doing? And I realized that I used to really enjoy powerlifting. I saw a really inspiring video of this guy, Ethan Suplee, who, if you've, I think I've shown this on stream before, but I guess trigger warning if you don't like topless men. But this guy was get back to this screen here. This guy you might recognize him from like Mallrats and My Name is Earl and American History X. And he was an actor, and he was a big dude, like a really big dude. This is him probably at his biggest. And then he started posting these photos like this. And now obviously, like, this is incredible. Like, he's done such incredible work to go from over 500 to I think he's like 265 or something now, right? So impressive what he's been able to do with himself. And so I saw this at about the same time that I saw that I was kind of feeling bad about myself. And I read about what he was doing, and he's like, well, I'm doing 6-a-days in the gym and I'm powerlifting. And I was like, man, that would be fun. And I kind of surprised myself when I thought about that. I was like, fun? Like, why would that be fun? I've never thought fitness was fun in my entire life. And then I looked it up, and there was a good powerlifting gym here in Portland run by a guy that is respected in the industry. People know him. So he kind of came with like some bona fides that I could trust. And so I was like, all right, let's try this out. And so I called the guy, I hit him up. I was like, hey, can I do powerlifting in your gym? And he was like, hell yeah, man, come on. And so I went in there, I started doing 4-a-days. I started making good progress. You know, I went from, I think I was, when I first started, I was maybe benching 225. And then we like fixed my form, and it was just a thing. I was excited about it. So I was like, you know, eating right, taking my creatine, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of saw the numbers go. And it was fun. Like, always excited, always fun to see like, oh man, I deadlifted over 500 pounds. Like, holy shit. That's really fun. I really, really like doing that. And so anyways, it was a whole thing. But yeah, so that's the whole thing. Oh, nice. You're doing strongman. That's dope. Um, Overeating is my problem. So chicken crust pizza, dude. Okay. I did, when I do a thing like 150%. So, take this all with a grain of salt, but my doctor runs blood tests. And so a pleasant side effect of this is, like, before I started lifting, I had like markers, like the early signs, not the actual disease, but like the risk factors for things like fatty liver disease. I had issues with a couple things being like out of bars for like my cholesterol wasn't high, but it also wasn't low. And so since I started lifting, all these markers kind of came back into place. But what you just reminded me of is I did a gut panel, which is gross. To get your gut bacteria tested, they send you a little kit. You kind of have to like just poop in a tray. It's gross. But after you do that, they give you a report of like what your gut health is based on sort of what the average microflora in your digestive tract are. And so I found out that I had 0 of this one bacteria, right? And I was talking to my doctor, and this was early stages. I was kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I'm always hungry. Like maybe I should try the Ozempic or something like that. And she was like, well, let's do this gut panel. Let's look at what's going on. And then if everything's looking good and you still feel that way, then yeah, let's get you on the semaglutides. And I took this panel and came back, and I had 0 of this thing. I think it's called Akkermansia was the one that I didn't have. And so it was like one round of replenishing that in my guts. It fixed my like bottomless pit feeling. I always felt like I wanted to eat more food. Like I'd be looking at food, I'd be physically uncomfortable because I was full, but like I didn't get the signal. Like my brain didn't have the signal that I was done eating. And so I was like, well, but I want to eat more of that. Like I want to keep eating. And after I did that cycle, it was like that turn. It's not off. Like I can still sit and just eat fries until I'm sick, very sick. But it was like it turned down the volume on it where it felt less like a need. And I was like, I'm done eating, but like I kind of want one more fry, which is a very different feeling from what I had before, where I was like, I haven't had enough. I need to get more. So if you feel like you're always hungry, dude, go get the gut panel. I did not ever think that I would do something like that. It made a huge difference for me. Have I had issues with my calves? Yeah, my calves are definitely one of those things that I'm heavy. I weigh 275 pounds as of today, and like my my calves are like the one thing on my body that, like, if you just saw a picture of my calves, you'd be like, damn, that dude's ripped. Because I've been carrying around my big ass. And so my calves are always kind of like knotted up and stuff. So the body work is really commonly focused on releasing the knots in my calves. I also spend a lot of time with a lacrosse ball, like rolling on it and sort of like working through what's going on with my calves because they're always like jacked up. But yeah, anyways, it's an ongoing thing. Yeah, right. Like goal oriented. And then like I am just not good at extrinsic motivation. If you show me a trophy, like I'm excited if I win the trophy, but like if that's the only thing I care about, I'm probably not going to follow through. Like I don't do a lot of competitions for that reason, because I'm not really motivated by like winning things. I'm motivated by like impressing myself, and I don't, yeah. It's never really been something for me to like prove that I'm the best. It's more like I want to show myself that I'm better than I was yesterday. And if I'm not interested in showing myself that I'm better than I was yesterday, there's not really anything you can dangle in front of me that would change my willingness to do the thing. Cause it's just not, I don't care. Like, I don't want to, I don't know. Like I want to show off to myself, and it's nice when people tell me that I'm doing a good job, but like, I want to be proud of what I'm doing. That's really the thing that drives me. You may, I don't think you can find them. I think they got scrubbed, but you might be able to find one if you look around. My hunch is you won't find them though, because I think unfortunately, one of the guys that was in the group died, and a lot of his web presence got scrubbed. Where are we at? What's up, Michael? How you doing? I think it was Leo up here had a question that I want to actually address. Is doing a post-grad degree necessary for growth as a developer? Everybody's mileage is going to be different, but I do not have a post-grad degree. I have no formal training. I just built stuff. So is it necessary? No. Can it help? Sure. Because if you get a post-grad degree, you will have a strong alumni network, and people, of like people who go to MIT, everybody at MIT knows other people who went to MIT, and so they're willing to hire friends from their like alumni group. So there's a lot of network advantages to college. Skill wise, I think that it provides a, like, in the pie chart of what doing work day to day is, I don't know that a post-grad degree is giving you very much of that pie chart. It's going to give you some really strong basis for parts of the work so that you can do sort of the from first principles stuff. But honestly, I haven't met a lot of people who are like pure academic who have seen organic success. Usually it's more network-based success. So that would be, I guess, my like very sample size of me. You don't need it. It can be useful, but be wary that like you will also have to learn the practical skills, because you're not going to learn a lot of like boots on the ground development stuff in college. Let's see. What else? Yeah, like big calves and don't do sports. Like that's my like the big boy crew. Stand up, flex your calves, show off. Never arm wrestle with a baker or get in a kicking competition with a fat person. 1000%. Yes. Yeah, it is definitely one of those things. What you do in college matters to 100%. Like if you just sort of like attend, but you don't build your network, you're not making friends, you're not meeting people, and you just kind of like do the class and get the degree and bounce, you probably aren't going to get a ton of value out of that degree, because the real, like, okay, just again, sample size of me, tons and tons of bias in what I'm saying. I am a college dropout. I think the value of college is the people you meet when you're there. I think that college is sort of a crash course in how to navigate networks and how to build out a like social safety net, more or less, because you meet people who end up being your friends, and those friends end up getting jobs, and those jobs end up giving them promotions, and eventually the people in your network are managers and directors and VPs and CEOs, and that's just how the world works. Like over time, a long enough timeline, everybody's going to hit sort of the top of their career, and you just are still friends, right? And so you're not doing it so that you have a strong professional network. You're doing it so that you have people in the industry that you can hang out with. And it's a great way to get insights. It's a great way to get, the back channel gossip and the whisper network. It's a great way to find out where the opportunities are. And sometimes it's a great way to get an opportunity directly from a friend. But yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, it build stuff. It really is. It just comes down to that. The more stuff you build, the better it's going to go for you. The real degree is the friends you make along the way. I unironically believe that is true. I think you could go all the way through college, build a great network, drop out, not get the degree, and have all of the benefits of having gone to college, except for the roles that are hyper academic. Like there are definitely companies that are like, we only hire Stanford grads. I personally think that any company that would only be willing to hire a Stanford grad is probably going to suck to work for, personally, because I think that if you will only hire people with a very specific worldview, it's going to be a weird place to work. Job market is brutal right now. And so again, everything I'm saying comes with a giant grain of salt, because I have not tried to get hired in this market. I have not. I mean, I'll be completely honest. I haven't tried to get hired in 10 years, longer. I've been very fortunate to have built the network that I've built. So typically I get recruited. I don't apply for jobs. And now that I'm independent, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on everything, I never have to apply for a job again. That is so when I give advice about what the hiring market is looking like right now, it's because I'm talking to people who are hiring managers and I'm talking to people who are looking for jobs, not because I have any real world experience with it. So please, please, please take everything I'm saying with a giant grain of salt. Yeah, I dropped out after a year too. I had a really rough experience in college where I thought I was going in to be a graphic designer, which thank goodness I didn't accrue college debt over that. But I was in like an Illustrator class, and I remember the teacher kind of fumbling through the menus, and I already knew the answer. And I was like, oh no. Like this is the intro class. And like if the teachers don't know the intro stuff, I'm really worried about what else I'm going to learn here. And they also had like the really weird rules at this college about like attendance and automatic failure if you didn't show up to class, and you couldn't test out of certain classes. And so I was like in a math class that I'd taken in my sophomore year of high school, and I was like, can I test out of this? And they're like, no, you just got to show up. And I was like, can I like just take the test? And they were like, no, you got to be present in class or you will get failed. And so it was just very like super frustrating. But yeah, that's a whole problem. Man, yeah, the water is also such a big thing. Like I'm not a big like Stanley mug fan. They're kind of unwieldy, but this thing holds 30 ounces. And I try and typically fail to drink 150 ounces of water a day, which is 5 of these freaking things. This is my second one. And that was my first sip out of the second one. So what I'm supposed to do is finish this one well before noon and have started the third right around noon. And what typically happens is I will forget that this is there. I'll get to like 2 o'clock. I'll pound it. I will fill it up for the third time, forget that that one's there, pound it right before bed, get the fourth one, and then try to pound the entire fourth one before I get into bed, and then hope that I'm not up all night hitting the bathroom. But you know, it is what it is. What's up, Henri? What's going on? Failing is not the, yeah, you know what? Like, I also think I talk about failure usually as a jest, because my general stance on it is that the only way to fail is to stop moving. If you're continuing to try stuff, then anytime that you try a thing and it doesn't work, you just have more information for the next try. So the only way to really fail is to like hit a wall and say, nah, I'm done. Because then you did fail. You stopped. But you know, otherwise you just keep on going. 3 diplomas in 6 years of college. Damn. What's up, Chris? How you doing? CS degree, holding friend, talked you out of trying to change majors. Ooh, pointers and sea-lang for no reason. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Like water, the LD50 of water though is real high. Like you got to be drinking, you got to really be going for it. But it's not yeah, it's not 150 ounces, that's for sure. But what I have noticed is on the days that I'm responsible enough to drink all of the water, if I can do it, because the downside is then like once you drink 150 ounces of water, you will 100% have to use the bathroom every 30 minutes. Like it is a pain in the butt until you do it consistently for a few days, at which point your body sort of re-regulates and goes, oh, it's okay. I'm supposed to have this much water. I'm not dying. And when I do that, I sleep better. I'm not as hungry. I'm like, you know, my energy levels are higher. So many good things happen when I drink enough water. And then I'm still just like, ugh, water. It's so funny to me how self-destructive my brain is, because it's like, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, what do I want to eat tonight? I don't really want to eat anything. And then I'm like, well, if I don't want to eat anything, I'm sick of there's nothing that I'm craving. What I should do is just have some chicken breast over some rice and vegetables, like make myself a little chicken thing. And I think about that and I go, nah, I should probably make a hot pocket. And the same with the water. It's like, if I drink 5 of these today, I'm going to feel great. Nah, I'd rather be dehydrated. The liquid. Yeah, I like the liquid death. We had a what was it? It's not the Soda Stream. It was called like Arc or something, but it was a carbonator. I still have it somewhere, and I just don't. I set it somewhere. I forget about it. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. I did not expect that I'd be able to do that. That's pretty great. Ooh, a Gatorade to water mix. They're called Ultima, I think. They're electrolytes, and they're basically kind of Gatorade stuff. And so I'll throw those into the water, and that kind of makes it like a little fruit drink, and that helps. It's way easier to drink when it's got the electrolytes in it, because it just kind of feels like I'm having a little sip. But the plain water is harder for me. I'm really good at drinking plain water in a restaurant because there's the glass in front of me and they keep bringing more. Where I fall apart is I will drink the water, and then once it's empty, the last thing in the world that I want to do is walk somewhere to refill a glass of water. And that's why I got the big one, because then I only have to do that 4 times a day. But it's just an ongoing struggle. Yeah, the Gatorade, all that. The testosterone boosters, like I take straight testosterone. Like I went to my doctor and asked, because I was on like, there's error bars for what the like quote unquote healthy amount of testosterone is in somebody my age. And I was toward like pretty close to the bottom of that range. And I was like, can I just boost it? And, I'm not planning on having kids, so I don't have to worry about any of the things that happen with like testosterone usage and stuff. And I'm also not taking enough to put me in like the danger zone. So we just gave me enough to like put me back toward the top of the range. And that's felt really good too. Like it wasn't like people were like, oh, but get ready, because it's going to make you feel all aggro and like your libido is going to go crazy and all this stuff's going to happen. And that didn't really happen for me. I feel like it just kind of felt like, when you get a really good night's sleep and you didn't realize that you were overtired, and the next day you're just kind of like, dang, man, I feel like a slightly better version of myself. I kind of feel like that was what it was. It was like, it just sort of like took a little bit of fatigue out of my life in a way that was noticeable, but not extreme. I imagine if I took more, it would probably change that. But my dose has been really good. Like I'm all about what is it called? What do they hate the term? Gender affirming care. Like I'm all about it. Like, get that gender affirming care. But yeah, it's been great for me. What else should we talk about? I feel like we've been talking about this for a really long time. You know what else is new? I saw Mike's in the chat. You want to talk about another thing that we did today that I'm really proud of? We've got the latest episode of Web Dev Challenge is out. Let me pull up the thingy for it. Season 2, episode 9. We are at 9 episodes, which I'm really like. We've recorded 12 this year, and I'm freaking pumped. Let me get over here, open this up, show this screen. So we had some familiar faces back on this one. You may recognize Shonda was in season 1. She's so dang funny that I just had to bring her back. We also had Scott Moss, who, if you're not familiar with Scott is like straight brilliant. He's a developer at Netflix. So this was like a Netflix team. He teaches on Front End Masters. He's been an investor. He's been a founder. He's just one of those people who like, it's like, hey, Scott, have you done that? He's like, yeah, I've done that. We had Brian and James. This was a great team. They were super funny. Brian was an advisor last year. This was his first time on as a contestant. James, you probably know from like the social medias. Jane and David were a great team as well. David is a principal over at Nike. Jane is a career switcher, was I think a math teacher, and is kind of like fresh into the dev world by a year or two. And then Mike, who you may have seen in the last episode, episode 8, who was a contestant, we had so much fun with Mike's app that I basically went to him and Brian. I was like, "Yo, you got to do a hash brown web dev challenge," and they were into it. So Mike is back. The episode is sponsored by Hash Brown. If you thought somebody's got a leaf blower right behind my building. If you saw the episode where Mike and Brian built the like music game, the tech they used to do that is the tech that everybody used in this episode. The apps are super cool. It's a really, really fun build. Go check this one out for sure. Like it's a very good time and I highly recommend it. It was really, really fun. Yeah, Scott is absolutely a boss. Let's see. Yeah, so this one was great. Really, really happy with it. There was some cool apps, a lot of funny moments. I mean, Shonday, as always, was like had the ham dial turned up to like 11 for sure. Let's see. Oh yeah, good call. So Will and I did a thing. We were at Cascadia JS, and while we were at Cascadia JS, let me see if I can quickly get to. Oh, that's all the stuff. The hell is this? Took a bunch of photos in my pocket, apparently. What are the ones of? Here we go. This is we did a new game on stage at Cascadia that we're calling Developer Squares. If you've ever seen Hollywood Squares, it's effectively exactly the same thing. It was a ton of fun. We had the speakers from the show up on stage in a roughly tic-tac-toe like grid. Here's more of what it looked like. We learned some things like the back folks need to be taller because we lost, like, that's Gant Laborde behind my head and that's Bree Hall behind Adam. So we need to fix the height a little bit to make it easier. I mean, in a perfect world, what would end up happening is we'd be able to do an actual, like in Hollywood Squares, they built out scaffolding to have a 9x9 grid that people sit in, and it's super fun. But this was great. We had the format is like, these are our contestants. This is Diane, this is Luis, and Will was hosting it. Each of the devs represented a square on the tic-tac-toe board. You can kind of see the tic-tac-toe board up here. And if Luis was O's, I think it was. And so he picked, like, he would pick center square. So he wants O in the center square. So that's me. Will would ask me a trivia question, and then I would do my best to answer it. And if I don't know the answer, I'm supposed to bluff, right? So if I know the answer, I give it. If I don't know the answer, I bluff. And then Luis would have to decide if I was correct or not. And so based on my answer and whether or not Luis guessed properly that I was right or wrong, he claims the square. And it's either a game to tic-tac-toe, like you want to get 3 in a row going in any of the directions, or if it's a cats game, you've got 9 squares. So somebody gets 5 and somebody gets 4, and that would be the winner in that case. So we got to play the game. It was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. Will and I are trying again at Web Unleashed in Toronto, and that is in about a month. So if you can make it, come on out. It's going to be a great time. I will also be speaking at that in Toronto. It's Web Unleashed is the conference. Real fun. Real fun. I mean, we love an introvert on the show. We're doing our best to try to make everybody comfortable. So, you know, if you're interested in being part, always reach out. We get a lot of requests, so, you know, don't be offended if we don't get back to you, but we would love to get people there. Yeah, so what we did for this one was we had chairs, a riser, and then chairs, and then you can kind of see there's stools behind the chairs. So what we probably needed to do was either we could have had the first group sit on like apple boxes and the second group sit on the riser and the third group sit on chairs. I think that would have worked. Or had the back group stand would have been fine. As much as it kind of sucks to have to like stand for 30 minutes, but that would have worked. You know, we'll figure it out. We're going to take this over to the Web Unleashed team and kind of show them and say, like, hey, we need to fix this. Like, let's make this better. But yeah, I think another riser would work if we had access to one. and in the absence of another riser, just getting more creative about the heights of chairs and using lower things. Like we had also talked about having people like sit on cushions, but I didn't want to put people on the ground. I felt like that, that's sort of making some assumptions about people's level of comfort sitting not in chairs, which is, I don't want to have to sit like crisscross applesauce on a floor for 30 minutes. That sucks. Stools on the floor, chairs on the riser might have worked. I have a hunch. I feel like the chairs was the right call. So probably the right solution is another riser, because then we would have like everybody's in a chair, riser chair, two risers chair, and then we get like good separation. But is what it is. We do what we can. Anyways, this was super fun. If you didn't get a chance to see it, there will be another chance at Web Unleashed, and Will and I are talking to a couple other conferences about maybe doing it again. And if we can find the right sponsor, we're going to do this for real as a Code TV show. So, it looks like amazing. That wind, the what's it called? The blower, the leaf blower, is so damn loud, and it's not picking up on the microphone. Fascinating. Yeah, Dev Square's in Toronto. That's Web Unleashed. So we'll see everybody there. And I got the video, or I'm getting the video of this, so I'll also edit up the pilot and we'll put it out for probably supporters only. So if you want to see how the first episode goes, make sure you sign up to be a Code TV supporter. So let me drop a link to that if you are interested in supporting what we're doing and you want to see more of it. We've got the ability to become a supporter. For as little as $5 a month, you can. Where's my thingy? Where did it go? Here. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter. And I'm going to open up an incognito window, I guess. So this is, this is like you get access to new episodes early. We've got some members only channels in the Discord. We are working on the early stages. Hopefully 26 is the year where we'll have some workshop-y stuff. There'll be discounts for supporters on that at the gold tier and higher. And then I'm working on some fun stuff. You also show up in the credits of the show. And you show up on the site. If you look at the homepage and all of the episode pages, we got this little thing. And this is one of my favorite things. I go look at it more often than I probably should. It just makes me so happy to see all these faces here. And whenever you look at one of our episodes too, you can see down here, we've got the devs, and then we've got you for supporting the show. So thank you all to everybody who's on this list already. Really, really appreciate you. And honestly, even if you're just watching the show and you're not a supporter, I appreciate you so much, because things like our view counts in the comments and sharing this on social media, it makes such a big difference. Every single share, every single comment, every single view helps us convince more companies to sponsor, helps us reach a slightly broader audience, and gives us a better chance of eventually hitting the self-sustainability that we're going to need if we want to do Code TV full-time on stuff that is not sponsored, which is that's the long-term goal. Now, granted, at $5 a month, it's going to take a lot of folks to get that goal, but I think it's possible. I think we can do it. We'll just keep pushing. So yeah, and Charles is putting up a link to the Discord. Go hit up our Discord. It is a great little supportive place, a good spot to participate in the challenges. So speaking of which, we've got a hackathon that's going to be going for Hash Brown. Wait, why did that go? Oh, damn it. I linked to the wrong thing. I'll fix it. This is the hackathon. It should be linked to this. If you want to watch the episode and then come back, build your own breakfast themed app, and then enter in the hackathon, we've got some goodies for people who enter. You also get to, if you want to, you can team up with somebody, make a new friend, learn something new. The Hash Brown team is hanging out in the Code TV Discord, so you can get hands-on support. They're also offering workshops. If you want to learn how Hash Brown works, that's through the Live Love app site. A lot of good stuff going on in there, but this is really fun. It's a chance to do the Web Dev Challenge. Actually, for who was it that just said this? Paterfamilias. If you want to be if you want to do the challenge, but don't necessarily want to be on camera, these are a great way to do it because it's the same format. Take 30 minutes to plan, 4 hours to build, and then submit your app. And we will optionally have a way for people to demo. We're actively building this. It's been on the roadmap forever. We're finally doing it. We're building in the ability to put the app demos as part of the episode. So down here somewhere, probably in this general vicinity, we're going to include the apps that were built as part of the challenge, as the hackathon challenge. Those will be down here, and we're going to let people do video demos. Like we'll get a call together. You may remember this from season 1. We did a video demo. People were showing off their apps. We're going to actually share them on social media. I still have all the ones from season 1, so we are going to retroactively do this as well. And those will all be kind of shared. And I mean, people did really cool stuff. I want to make sure that people see it. Somebody also brought up that like it's nice to be able to link to it as a thing to put in your portfolio. So I want to make sure that that's possible. And so that will be happening soon-ish. We've done the initial work. I just need to. I think there's paperwork that I owe somebody before that'll get like done. But yeah, a lot of good stuff. And then Charles is also linking to the casting call. So if you do want to be on the show, we've got a couple more episodes coming up this year. We are looking for devs. They're going to be, the whole world right now is like all AI everything. So it is going to be probably some AI focused stuff, whatever. If you're not comfortable with that, obviously, all the more reason to help us go independent so that we can do things that are not necessarily motivated by whatever's the most popular topic in tech and more what we think would be the most fun to build. Like I really want to do some just straight CSS challenges. We're not quite in a position to do that right now. So hopefully someday, hopefully we can get that. Maybe next year we can do some of those. That'd be really fun. But in the meantime, if you want to build some apps that are probably going to have some AI bent to them, get into that casting call. Similarly, if you are somebody who's in a senior plus position and are in one of the cities that Intuit is in, and you're interested in potentially getting a job at Intuit, and you're comfortable with on-site or relocation to on-site, maybe get at me because I need to find some devs that would be down for that sort of thing. And Intuit's been really cool about this. The way that they do their challenges, they're actually trying to they want people to see what it's like to work at Intuit as opposed to using Intuit's tools in the challenge. And then they're just like out there trying to recruit people based off the challenges. So if you are looking to get hired, this would be when we do the Intuit challenge, like maybe get at that one, do the challenge and either be part of it or join the hackathon because their team is going to be looking at those and they're going to be knocking on people's doors. Now, what else should we do? I have a couple things that I need to do. And I'm wondering if it's wise for me to perhaps make this a bit of a shorter one today. So let me do this. If you're on today and you want to talk about something, you got something on your mind, throw the questions in now. If we don't get any new topics going here, I might wrap this one a little bit early just to be able to dig into. I have some. Let me just double check here that somebody's not sending me. Yeah. Okay. We've got somebody coming to pick up some gear. Wanted to make sure I didn't lock them out, but I have to do some stuff that's like budget building and some product proposal stuff, which I can't do on stream because it's under NDA, and also it would be so terribly boring. But yeah, so that was. So if you got something you want to talk about, let's talk about it. Otherwise, I might wrap it up as opposed to just vamping up here. Gotten 2 requests as a freelance without giving yourself that title. Only coding 5 months. Man, when I first started, I was doing freelance stuff for anybody who needed it. I built a website for my band. I built a website for my friend because he was starting a personal training business. I built a website for a local karate school. And the first couple I did for free because I was just trying to get the experience in a portfolio. And then people started, I wasn't able to charge very much, but I was able to charge something for the third site. And I was able to charge more for the fourth. And by the time I got to like 10, I was like, damn, this is my job. So I think, it's definitely worthwhile if you're enjoying it and it's giving you some income and you feel like you're doing a good job and the people you're working with are happy, like you don't need that title. You can just do stuff, I think the joke I always make is that careers are a pie eating contest where the prize for winning is more pie. So if you are doing work and people see that work, they're going to ask you for more of it. So if it's work that you're enjoying, keep doing what you're doing. It's gonna pay off. So yeah, that's what I would do. TurboTax prep, yeah, yeah, exactly. Anything people can help out with building for the Code TV website? I have a handful of issues. The problem is that so much of what needs to be done requires like all of the keys because it's like the automations and stuff. So the long and short, oh, you know what would be a fun one to fix if somebody's feeling like a weird challenge? I cannot figure out why the RSS feed is broken on the blog. And I have a hunch that it has something to do with the MDX renderer, but I haven't had time to dig into it. So if somebody wants a fun little puzzle, a fun little Astro puzzle, the blog right now used to have a functioning RSS feed. That has since stopped working. And I think that some dependency did an upgrade that I haven't had a chance to address yet. And I like didn't notice when I did the upgrade. And so now I don't even know when it broke, but that could be a fun challenge. Try to debug that one and see what's going on. And that should not require any keys. That one should work with the, I think the only one you need to run Code TV is you have to set up like a dev clerk instance just because the process of not doing that was too much. But everything else should work without a key. So yeah, that's a whole thing. Website costs as advertising expense. Actually, I would say like at this point, Code TV, we have so many contractors and all this stuff kind of gets put into like, yeah, we've got marketing stuff, we've got the contractor expenses. I was really proud. I found out that I have been able to pay local like people who work in the film industry in Portland. I've been able to pay over $260,000 out to people this year already, which is a really cool feeling to know that I've been able to put money back into the industry. And like a couple folks have told me that it was really, really dry. They're just, there's a lot going on in the industry right now, and people are cutting budgets and projects are getting cut, and there's only so many like films being made because there's just no money in any of that stuff. And then everybody kind of wound back their advertising for a while during the really bad tech layoffs and downturn. Like the whole economy sort of froze up, and so there just wasn't commercial work. And a couple people told me that like the Web Dev Challenge was one of the only steady things they had for a brief period of time there, which isn't great because we do 1 or 2 of them a month. It's certainly not like keeping somebody in super comfortable living, but it maybe at least help them keep the lights on. But it felt really good to realize that like Code TV is in a position where we're able to do that, where we can put money back into the economy. So super, super, super happy about that. But yeah, like like Code TV, I hope this, I'm fingers crossed, this should be the year that Code TV breaks $1 million in revenue. It is absolutely not the year that I make $1 million. So just to be clear, But before expenses, I think this will be the first year that we cross into 7 figures in revenue, which will be a huge milestone. I'm so excited about that. And then, it's just kind of onwards and upwards. Like, next milestone is we're going to try to get into a bigger studio. I probably shouldn't even talk about this because it's so early, but like I put in an offer on a building. There's a million things that can still go wrong, but we'll be purchasing a building instead of renting one, because there's so much stuff that I want to do to the building that I'm in now. But like, any changes I make, they're not mine, if that makes sense. So it's sort of like if you're renting an apartment and you want to like remodel the kitchen, you just don't, because why would you do that? You're like gifting a remodel to your landlord. And the same thing here. Like, if I go in and fix the bathroom, it's not like that doesn't take any money off my rent. It doesn't make any financial sense to do it. But I hate the bathroom in this place, and I want to have a nice bathroom in my studio. I'd love to have a shower in my studio, so that, if you are like if I ride my bike into the studio, which I'd love to do, but then it's like it's 100 degrees out because it's summer and the world is on fire. I can come here and shower here instead of showering at home and then getting all sweaty on the ride to the studio. Just stuff like that, right? Like, little things that would make my life easier, but like, I'm not going to do that in a rented space. It would be a silly way to spend money. So, also gives me a significantly higher amount of floor space to work with. So we'll have like the area that the Web Dev Challenge is in, which right now in the studio, the Web Dev Challenge fills the entire space. There's no unused space in the studio. We're kind of at capacity here. What it'll mean in the new space, if all the due diligence and permits and all the things that have to happen in order for this to go through, if those actually go through, then I will be in a much stronger position to have like flex space, additional floor plan for like podcasting rentals and other productions to come in, because there'll be an area that'll be permanent Web Dev Challenge, and then there'll be an area that's just open and flexible, and we can do whatever we want with it. So, kind of pushing on that, trying to find some fun ways to make next steps for the business, right? Also in some very early conversations about what it might look like to do an arced season of Web Dev Challenge, which I really, really hope that this works, because it would allow us to keep teams over the course of the whole season and do more of like 8 teams, and we vote somebody off, and there's more challenges. You get to know people a little bit better, like stuff that I've wanted to do since day one, since before we even did season 0 of Web Dev Challenge, back when we called it 4 Devs, 1 App. And this has always been the vision. So this maybe 26 might be the year that we get to do it. The conversations have been really positive. I've really, really loved this particular sponsor. So I'm really hoping that it works out. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, lots of exciting stuff on the horizon for Code TV. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we just the world doesn't fall down around me. I feel a little guilty that like things are going well for me, and it just sort of seems like it's wild out there for everyone else. But yeah, that's a whole thing too. But let's see. What's the best success story I know personally in tech? Anyone that made millions? The thing that's interesting about this is I definitely know people who have made millions. A couple friends of mine ran a company that was an online coaching app. It was a 2-sided marketplace. So on the one side, they trained personal trainers on how to make on how to coach. Basically, it was kind of like a sort of a certification program. And on the other side, they trained individuals using the methods that they taught to coaches to sort of like prove it that it worked. And they grew that business for a really long time. They had pretty good team. And then they ultimately sold it. And both of the founders walked away with like over 60 million each. So that's probably like the biggest direct connection I have. Somebody who I like know personally, stayed at their house, like we're friends. They were the biggest tech success story I know. I know a lot of people friend of a friend or like way after the fact who were part of like big acquisitions, like, the GitHub team, like the Tom Preston Warners and stuff like that. Like I know Tom. And he's, but he had already gone through that success story long before I had ever came in contact with him. And then, a few things like that, like that, where people that had already hit it big ended up being in part of my network just because of where, I was working in Netlify at the time. And Tom was doing Redwood. And so like through Netlify and Redwood, there was sort of this like pretty obvious overlap. So we ended up in the same meetings a few times. But so stuff like that, right? There's all that. But I would say, yeah, the biggest one that I know of like a personal friend who told me how much money they made, it was 60 million each, more 60, something like that, more, around that much for a company that they sold outright. Like they were able to sell it and basically walk away, which is pretty cool because usually an acquisition includes an earnout. So they don't just like hand you a bag of money. You get acquired, you have to then go to the company and spend 4 years there. And there's like some strings attached to the money, like sometimes, and those strings can be really arbitrary. Like another company I know of, they got acquired and the things that were attached to that were like, they needed to retain a certain percentage of their team to get the full payout, which is really interesting because that's like so out of their control. And I can't believe they agreed to it. I've seen things like you have to, yeah, like and the earnout can be really small. It can be like 6 months. Sometimes it's 4 years. Really depends on like, honestly, I guess how good of a negotiator you are. But yeah, these two friends were able to just like say straight up, like, yep, you're going to buy this. It already works. You don't need us to run it. So you give us the cash and we give you the business and we're going to walk away. And that's what they did. And now they're both like one of them's like buying buildings and doing cool, like whatever he's interested in. Another one is, I honestly, I don't even know I don't know if he does anything. I think he's like straight up just like raises his family and like lives in a giant cool house and like does nothing. Which good for him. I don't know if I'd be able to do it, but like what a dream. You hit the point where like I remember one of the conversations that he had, we don't talk too much anymore because like, you find that when you hit that level of income, there's not a lot to talk about anymore. Like it's very strange when you just realize that like when we talked, it's pretty clear that like we didn't live in the same universe anymore. But one of the comments that he made was like, he's like, I went from worrying about whether I was going to be able to like save up enough to do a kitchen renovation because like he was already doing well off. So like let's not be silly. This isn't like a rags to riches story. This is a middle class to riches story. But he was like saving up to do a kitchen renovation, and they wanted to have a third kid, and they were trying to figure out how that was going to work and whether they could, maybe they could get a different house that had more room for the kids and that sort of thing, right? And then he's like, so my problem shifted from how am I going to like upgrade the house or get a bigger house or whatever, to I now have generational wealth and I have to think about how do I make sure that my kids are okay but don't become like little spoiled shitheads. Which was really interesting because it's like this whole category, like he will never think about money again in the day-to-day sense. And I don't know what that's like. Like I know I made the transition. There was an interesting transition for me where I went from, I remember going to the grocery store with a calculator, right? Like you had to, at the income level I was at, the only way that I could grocery shop is if I checked how much money I had in my bank account. I figured out which bills were due before I got paid again. And I subtracted that amount from what was in my bank account. And then I thought about like, did I have any big plans? Like, was I supposed to go see a movie with somebody? Did I agree to go to drinks with somebody? And I'd like earmark money for that. And then I'd look at how much was left in my bank account. I was like, okay, I have $100. I need to grocery shop for a week off of $100. And I would go into the grocery store and I would have to like start buying stuff and I'd do the math and I'd figure out where I was at. And then I'd realize that I was over. So I have to go put something back so I could get this other thing that I really needed. And I had the calculator going at all times. And there was a point in my life where I crossed an income threshold where I didn't have to do that anymore. And I remember how different life felt in the like calculator to post calculator world. And it was one of those, they talk about how money can't buy happiness. There's a study that money absolutely can buy happiness up to a point, but not beyond it. And I feel like that was the moment for me. Was I realized that money bought happiness when I stopped having to do math for everyday purchases. Like I'm not, I can't like walk into a car dealership and be like, hey, I don't care what it costs, give me whatever. But like I can walk into a grocery store and just put the stuff I want in a cart and walk out and not have to worry if I like accidentally spent $50 more than I meant to, because I am fortunate enough to be in a situation where my income allows me to do that in a way that I'm resilient to. Not infinitely, like if I keep doing that, I'm going to suffer for it. But like, it's okay. I can splurge a little bit, and like a $50 overspend isn't the sort of thing that's going to cause me to overdraw my account and the cascading shit show of when you don't have money and don't have any way to like quickly get a couple $100 if you need it. There's no, I didn't have savings. I didn't have like an emergency fund. Right. And I've since saved up to where I do have an emergency fund and I do have some savings. And so if I go to the grocery store and I spend more than I meant to, I'm not happy to have to move money out of my savings, but I have it. Right. And it's like, man, I got to be better at like not impulse buying every chocolate bar that I see. So, next time I'll do better. But it doesn't like ruin my month or put me in financial peril. So anyways, I think I have a hunch that there's a similar worldview shift when you hit that sort of like, I can walk into the car dealership and just get any one of these and it's fine. And in fact, if you have $60 million in the bank, unless you are really wasteful with it, you will make more money in interest every year than you would possibly spend, like without buying yachts and things like that, right? Like if you think about how compound interest works, if you put all of that money into a mutual fund, you could live on a $250,000 a year salary and you will have more money at the end of the year than you had when the year started, after taking $250,000 of that money out, because that's how interest works on millions of dollars. That's the dream. I had this idea a while ago. I was like, I need to find somebody who's got like hundreds of millions of dollars and just ask them if I can borrow like $6 million. That's all I need. If you, and I don't need it. I don't want it. I just want to live off the interest of it. That's it. Let me have $6 million of your money. You get it back when I die or whenever you want it back. But in the meantime, I just want to be able to draw the interest off of that $6 million because it would fundamentally change my life. It would completely alter the course of my reality if somebody put $6 million in an account and said, you cannot have any of the $6 million, but you can have every dollar of interest that it generates. World changing. I think it's like close to $300,000 a year. Bonkers, absolutely bonkers what you could do if you were just able to like have some money sitting in an account gathering interest for you. And if you are a 100 millionaire or beyond, maybe change somebody's life, maybe change my life. But no, for real, that's one of those things that like, that'd be cool. Anyways, do I think you have to be a geek to be successful in this industry? No. Starfall, I don't think I've seen your question, so hit me with it again. We'll try. Do I think you need to be a geek to be successful in this industry? I would say no. I don't think you need to be a geek. I think also the term geek is so overloaded as to be meaningless these days. So when you say geek, what does that mean to you, right? Like, what does geek mean to me? I would say when I think about like a geek, if we're talking about the stereotypical, like pocket protector, thick glasses, short sleeve button down, like pushed into a locker geek from an 80s movie, we know that's not the case. Like, but like, am I a geek? Yeah, kind of. Like I like code. I like puzzles. I like solving problems. I like, working on software. So does that make me a geek? I don't know. What's your definition of the word geek? Because, there's other stuff I do that's not geeky. And depending on your definition of it. Right. So I think I would say I don't know a lot of people that fit my stereotypical understanding of what a Hollywood geek is. Most of the people I know who are successful in tech are very interesting in a lot of ways that go far outside the computer. So that's that's the whole thing. Money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a more pleasant form of misery. I would agree with that. I think the trick is, right, like really what happiness is a willingness to accept that like things are kind of okay and you can be okay in any situation. Like, throw me on the streets with a cardboard box and if I can find a way to be happy there, then I can find a way to be happy in any situation. And if I can't be happy with my situation, it doesn't matter how many dollars I have in the bank, I'm still going to be unhappy, right? Like the state of happiness is a continuous choice to believe that life is okay and can get better, right? It's the belief that you are, well, yeah, I mean, it's more complicated than that, but like, I don't know. I think happiness is a choice. Like happiness is the thing that you choose to be. You look around you and you go, you know what? There's a lot that I'd like to see go differently, but I'm glad I'm here. Okay, what else? Like the alternative is to not be here. I'd rather be here. I'm glad I'm here, and I'm going to do the best I can with the opportunities that I have, and it's just going to be what it is. I'm going to try the best I can with what I have access to. But yeah, I think that's all I got. That's it. Just be just solve deep philosophical questions because of 10 seconds of my banter. Prattle. I should probably drink my water and not just coffee. Yeah. So I'm watching for a question from Sarfo and I haven't seen it. What else? What else is happening? Oh, I'm going on vacation. I haven't been on vacation, like a real vacation. Like I'm pretty good at taking weekends. Just recently I went camping, a little while before that. We did like a long weekend out at the coast for Marissa's birthday. That was back in May. So, I've taken like 2 little vacations this year, maybe 3. But this is going to be the first like vacation. We're out for almost 2 weeks. I am going to be in Tokyo. So if I know anybody in Tokyo, hit me up. But we're going out there because Shirley Wu, who was on Web Dev Challenge last episode 8, she worked on that really cool project with the changing lights based on the sentiment of the articles. Really, really cool project. Worked with Craig Dennis. But Shirley is a really talented artist and like data visualization expert. I don't know what the right term is there, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But she's doing an art show in Tokyo. Super, super excited to see that. But so we're going out to see her art show. And then we're going to stay there. I think we're there for 12 days, 14 days, something like that. I'm going to try really, really hard to not work very much. Like I run my own business. There's no way you get to be like off. Like I got to check email and stuff like that. But I'm going to try my best to not really do anything, but just to make sure that like I'm keeping the lights on. Right. And that'll be a first for a really long time. So I'm really excited to get back. I haven't been to Japan in 10 years. We were there in Kyoto and Tokyo about 10 years ago. And we had such a blast. I forgot everything I learned. Like I learned how to read hiragana and katakana, and I can't do that anymore. But I'm excited to go back. I really miss the food. It was really fun to be there. We had, we obviously like didn't know a ton about the culture. We don't speak Japanese. We just sort of awkwardly fumble through it. But we had a lot of fun in Tokyo because there were a lot of people who were sort of like in-betweeners. Like one of our good friends, like Shirley, for example, half her time is in San Francisco and half is in Tokyo. And she lived in Tokyo when she was a kid. And then another friend of ours, when we were there last time, same story. She grew up in Tokyo, but she split her time between Tokyo and San Francisco. And so she took us to her home neighborhood and showed us these restaurants. We had this incredible experience where we went to a sushi bar, but it was not a restaurant. It was a stainless steel counter. There was no plates, no silverware, no nothing. You would just and there was no menu. You just kinda had to speak Japanese. You had to know this guy, and you just ask him, "What's on the menu today?" And he would explain what was available, and then you would pick something, and he would make that bite. He would wipe the counter in front of you. He would set down the bite, and then he'd watch you eat it. There was room for 5 people at this counter. It was like a standing room only sort of thing. I've never had more fun in my entire life. Never, ever in my entire life would have been able to navigate that on my own. I don't speak Japanese. I didn't know enough about the menu. I don't know enough about like the culture. I would have been so intimidated by everything that was happening there. But because we were there with our friend, she helped us sort of bridge into somewhere that we don't belong and, helped us participate in a way that was the way we should have. Like she was like, "Oh, here's what's going to happen. So when he sets it down, you eat it and you say thank you and then if you want more, I'll order more." So she just kept like getting all this great stuff. I don't think it was actually the best food that I've ever had, but the combination of the experience and the food because it was good food. But with that experience, it's like one of my most treasured meals because it was such a cool experience. And so I don't have delusions of being able to recreate that kind of experience when we go back. But what I love about Tokyo is it's a term that I love, infinite city. It's the kind of place that you could go and you could spend your entire life there and you would never finish. Because by the time you get done exploring one area, whole sections of that area have been reborn into something else. And so there's still more to explore, even if you've covered every square inch of it, because it just became something else in the span of the days that you spent exploring it. You can spend your whole life there, you'd never see the whole thing, right? And I love places like that because as long as you don't fall into a routine where you only go to the same couple spots, you will literally have a new adventure every day, even if you're just in walking distance from where you're going. It's such a fascinating place. I love it so much. Um, New York feels that way. Toronto feels that way. Like these places you can go where they're just huge and they're alive, and the experiences you can have there are different from anywhere else you can go. Bangkok is like that. Like there's so many cool cities that are so active and they're their own organism. Anyways, that'll be really fun. What else do I do outside of tech? My outside of tech life is these days is mostly cooking and fitness stuff. So one of the things that I like to do is Marissa and I really like to cook. Marissa's my wife, for anybody who doesn't know. And she's the baker, I'm the cook. And so we'll set up a lot of stuff where she's making some elaborate dessert, I'm making some elaborate meal. We've got some really good friends. Our friends Joel and Christina are great cooks. They will come up with a meal. We'll kind of like split up duties and take turns hosting and make these. We called it the steadily escalating dinner party for a while. We've both gotten busy enough now that it's been a little hard to host those, but that's been something that we've really enjoyed. It's something we're going to get back to. We've been working on like making our home into the space we want it to be, which is an interesting problem because some of that is just money, right? Like you got to save up the money to be able to remodel the kitchen. And so that was a big project we did a while back to try to make the kitchen into the thing we wanted it to be and not the thing that it had to be based on kind of constraints. And so it was a down to the studs, like really over the top remodel, really, really happy with it. But a lot of it was also just like figuring out like how do you make a space feel cozy, right? And so thanks in large part to Marissa spends a lot of time reading like architecture magazines because she likes like the way houses look and she likes the way people interior decorate. So she reads those types of things. And then I've been doing all this film work, so I've been really thinking about lighting a lot. And between the two of us, we were kind of like discovering these different things that we like. Like she's really into Danish furniture. It's wooden, it's warm, but it's also really comfortable despite not being like overstuffed and like lazy boyish. And then I really got into like lamps and lighting and making sure, get rid of the overhead lamps because a ceiling mounted light feels kind of cold and it's like over bright. And so instead, lots of dim lamps that are below eye level so that the space just sort of feels like it's got these puddles of warm light. That makes it feel cozy. And then you get like good pillows and throw some blankets over everything and just make it into a little space that when people come in, they immediately make themselves at home. They kind of like curl up on the couch and they talk about how cozy they feel. And this is something that happens when people come to our house, when they go into our living room, is they'll like grab a spot in the living room and they'll just kind of go, man, it's really cozy in here. And it makes us so happy because it's like, we really, like, it didn't happen by accident. We worked so hard to make it feel that way. So we're starting to like expand outward. How do we do that with our outdoor dining space? Because we host people a lot during the summer and it's fun to eat outside. So right now our outside feels it's like kind of like a hallway. It's a little cramped and it doesn't quite feel right. So we're looking at how can we rearrange that? How can we kind of rethink where the grill is and where the tables are? And, do we need to get different chairs to make it more comfortable? Like what are we getting right? What are we getting wrong? So that we can make that into a space that when people go out there, they go, damn, this is a cozy eating space outside. And just kind of thinking through like our whole house in the different ways we use it to try to make sure that when we go into the rooms, we're like, I'm really happy to be in this room. I don't know. I guess that's a hobby. It's definitely the thing I do outside of work. We also do, I was talking earlier about it, so I won't talk about it very much, but I've been going to the gym. I do, like powerlifting is the type of training that I do. So I'm kind of in constant pursuit of seeing how much heavy shit I can pick up. I'm really pushing my target right now is I want to get 4 plates on bench, which is 405. I hit 380 today. So I'm spitting distance from it. I think I lost my form. So I think I could have gotten a double on 380, which I think would put me, and that was also like a back off double. I had done 2 sets of 4 with 365 before I jumped up to 380. And I feel like if I'd been fresher, I could have hit 380 for a double. And that makes me wonder if I could I still can't get to 405, but maybe I could get 390. Who knows? Haven't tried to max out in a really long time, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I feel that's really fun. That's I was talking about earlier. It's kind of a new thing for me. I've very rarely in my life been like excited about exercise, and that's one of the things that I look forward to now. Maybe I'm also like I've been getting into fashion a little bit. Like I hired a stylist, and that was in the beginning of the year when we were getting into the new season of Web Dev Challenge. Because last year I realized, I didn't really like a lot of the ways that I looked in season 1 of Web Dev Challenge. I was kind of self-conscious about it. I felt like my outfits weren't very flattering. I felt like I didn't look very good just in general. I was just kind of like, I want to like fix this for real. So started up the fitness thing, hired a stylist, and got a wardrobe refresh. But then on the heels of that wardrobe refresh, I was able to learn a little bit about like how the stylist was thinking about how to dress me. And that helped me start kind of exploring a little bit on like which pieces are worth spending money on, which pieces you just need like a good basic, which pieces do you kind of expect to be cheap because they don't last very long. Like, socks, for example, like luxury socks are silly because they're going to get wrecked in the same amount of time as the cheap socks. And it kind of doesn't matter. But like getting a high quality sweater versus the $10 Walmart sweater, there's a notable difference. And the way that it's cut and the way that it looks and the way that it kind of feels to wear, there's a big difference. So I didn't know any of that stuff. I've been sort of falling down different rabbit holes, learning about different materials. And I learned about because I was like, what I hate summer. And the reason I hated summer is because I don't really like wearing a t-shirt and shorts. I feel like I always just don't feel, it's like wearing pajamas to me. Like it's not wrong, but I don't like to do it. It's not the way I like to dress. And so I was always self-conscious in the summer because I felt like I wasn't wearing what I wanted to wear. I always felt like I was wearing what I had to because of the heat. So I was like, how do people dress nice in hot weather? And so I discovered things like summer weight wool and linen and like tropical wool, stuff like that I'd never heard of before. And I was able to get new clothes that are actually, honestly, if you are always hot in the summer and you don't own any linen, dude, get some linen. Get some like lightweight linen stuff. it was a game changer for me because I had always worn like the cotton t-shirt and the cotton shorts, and I was always like sweaty and sticky. And I was like, God, it's like, I can't wear less clothing. Like I'm as lightly dressed as I can be, and I'm still just too hot. And then I switched to the linen, and the linen breathes. And all of a sudden I'm like comfortable. Still too hot, but I didn't feel like I was like sticky and wet all the time. I was like, you're less sweaty because the material actually breathes. So anyways, functional fashion has been really fun for me to learn. I don't know. I probably somewhere have other hobbies. I like board games, but it's hard to find time to play a board game. Because you have to like get a group of people together, and I love it when we do it. But I hate scheduling. This is my problem. I really like social things. I hate scheduling. Because there's like, when I don't know, maybe not everybody feels this way, but for me at least, I spend so much of my life on calendar things, like calendar invites, that adding more of them always just sort of makes me feel like boxed in and like caged, right? And so one of the things that I really cherish is like a day that has no calendar invites on it, where I am literally like, not because I don't want Marissa around, but because it removes every single possible obligation. Is like, if Marissa goes to like a spa with a friend for the weekend, and I am home for 2 days on my own, and nobody knows that I'm there, and I don't have any plans, and you know that day where you wake up, it's Saturday morning, and the next thing that you have to do is on Sunday night. And no one's going to ask you like, "Hey, are you hungry? Hey, do you want to go on a walk? Do you want to go do a thing? Are you bored?" Nobody's going to even talk to you. You can just sit in silence. You can just like look at nothing. You can choose to like get distracted by your phone and not eat until 9 p.m. And like, you shouldn't, but you can, because nobody cares. Nobody's looking, right? And it's this idea of like unstructured time, like completely unobserved, unstructured time, where you could, if you so chose, lay face down on the floor in the middle of the room and just stay there. And who cares? No one's going to look at you. That is a very, very, very rare experience for me, and I miss it. Right. So when we start talking about like, hey, do you want to go play a game? I'm like, yes, I do. But if you ask me to pull my calendar out, I'm going to cry. And so that's the sort of thing. But let's see. California's tech oriented. Why are a lot of the industry leaders there? I mean, I would say, so one of the things about the tech industry is that it concentrated around where the money is. And a lot of the .com stuff, for whatever reason, it just happened in San Francisco. I think, and I don't know this for sure because I wasn't there, and I've not like done any deep research on this, but I think just by sort of coincidence, the timing was right, the pricing on offices were right, it was maybe affordable to live there. Like, a lot of things happen that make it possible for an explosion to happen. And I think in that era, it was the right set of conditions for people to build these .com startups. And then once those .com startup were built, those people had built lives there, and now they had millions of dollars, and they became venture capitalists. And so then all the venture capitalists are in San Francisco. So if you want to get venture capital, you got to go to San Francisco so that you can pitch to the VCs. But then if you want to have a board, your board is going to be in San Francisco. So now you got to live in San Francisco, and then you have to recruit your talent in San Francisco. Like, it's this whole thing where it sort of like becomes this vortex. Not necessarily because there's any intrinsic value in San Francisco, but because it's where stuff happened, and now that's where the infrastructure is. That being said, I find that a lot of tech leaders actually aren't in San Francisco anymore. It's a very specific cohort of tech leaders who are in San Francisco, and a lot of it is around the sort of like speculative tech. If you're trying to build a moonshot, San Francisco is where you need to be, because you need somebody to keep giving you money, because you don't make money yet, right? Like the AI companies, for example, like none of them are profitable. They're all hemorrhaging money. So they need to be where the tech money is, because they need the venture capitalists to inject another $1 billion into them so that they can go burn it on GPUs. And eventually, as a company stabilizes and becomes profitable, they move out of San Francisco. And that's why like Intel is based in Portland, and IBM is based in like Austin and upstate New York, and JP Morgan Chase is based in, I think, upstate New York, or maybe somewhere like that. But like these companies that have really strong tech arms that aren't Silicon Valley startups are elsewhere in the world. I almost got a job working on the Hilton Hotel app, which would have been super cool, but it would have required me to move to the Midwest, and I didn't want to live in the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest. So, but there are tech companies all over the place. Comcast is in Philly, and they've got a lot of tech workers out there. Shopify is in Toronto. Lovable is in Amsterdam. Like there's a lot of companies that aren't based in San Francisco. It's just there's a concentration of them there because that's where all the venture capital is. And so it kind of creates this center of gravity where if you're trying to raise money and you need to raise money, then it is far easier to do that if you're in San Francisco. At least that's my general understanding, is like it's kind of like, if you wanted to be in the punk scene, it was just easier to move to New York than to try to be a punk in Cleveland, Ohio. Not because you couldn't, but because all the other punks were in New York. Right? Like you wanted to go where the Ramones were, and where like the big parties were, where you'd actually like meet the New York Dolls and that kind of stuff. So it's I think it's one of those things where it's like a cultural phenomenon, and now it's sort of got its own momentum. But at the same time, that momentum broke in 2020, and I think they're trying to pull it back. But like, you can't afford to live there if you're not established. Nobody can afford to live in San Francisco, and like eventually, it gets so expensive so far out that like now you can't live in Oakland. So how far is somebody willing to commute before you end up with somebody starting a new one somewhere that's a little more affordable for smaller places? But anyways, that's kind of a whole thing. What did I do in my 20s? My 20s were, I started out in a band in the very early part of my 20s. We were a touring band, and we did. Sorry, somebody came in to pick up equipment, and I was like, "Who the hell is that?" I started out my 20s in my band, and that was when I like got into tech stuff. And then when I was in my early, like early to mid 20s, and my late 20s, I was running an agency, doing the freelance stuff, building websites for small businesses. That turned into my agency, which was like almost exclusively focused on like fitness businesses. That was just the clientele we ended up getting. And then that went from the middle of my 20s until just about the end, when I took a job at IBM. Yeah, I think I was just about 30 or about, around 30, I took a job at IBM. So for most of my 20s, I was working on like websites for a gym or a personal training coach or something like that. For the most part, that was a lot of what I was building. And on the side, I was still trying to be a musician. I was did a lot of design work back then, because I would design and build the websites. And then I started building out the admin side, where I was learning how to run the business. So I got contractors, I was doing the sales, I was doing the marketing, I was doing the admin and invoicing and contracts. Well, I was not doing the contracts, which I learned the hard way is a bad idea. And then, all these little pieces of like operating a business. So I learned a lot about operations. I learned a lot about the early stages of leadership. I wouldn't say I was a good leader at that point, but I'd sort of learned how to take charge, I guess. I hadn't really learned how to do it well, but it was at least something that I'd proven to myself that I was capable of standing up and saying, like, follow me and we'll get there. And so it started to lay the foundation for a lot of the skills that have turned into the skill set today that I'm able to leverage to, like, I can go talk to a company and understand the business side of the equation, and understand the requirements of the marketing team, and understand what the product team is trying to get out of it, and then talk to their DevRel team to come up with something creative that, like, hits all of those goals. And then I can go explain it to the purchasing person, whether that's like the accounting team or whether that's the head of product marketing or a VP of whatever. I can speak in language that makes sense to them. Like, I'm not trying to, it's not like sometimes you have an engineer and the engineer really wants to fix a problem, and they keep saying engineering things, and the accountant keeps saying accounting things, and they're both actually saying the same thing, but they're saying them very differently. And so they don't understand, and it kind of comes to this standstill. And then they're both walking away going like, why doesn't this idiot just understand what I mean? I think one of the skills that I've got, because I've gone so broad with the things that I've done in my career, is that, like, I'll get into a spreadsheet. You want to do some financial projections? Like, hell yeah, bro, let's do it. And I'm happy to talk to the accounting team about, like, I am not an accountant, but I know enough about, like, how finances work inside of a company that I can talk to you about that stuff. And I can talk to it in your language. Like, I'm not trying to force you to speak in technical terms to me. Similarly with sales, similarly with marketing, similarly with leadership. Like, if you want to talk about a thing, I've learned it from your perspective. And so I'm always saying the same thing, but I'm saying it with words that are like what you're telling me how to speak to you. And because I've had enough experience in those places, I can use the right jargon for the right situation, and focus on the right, like, metric or lever to accomplish the goal, because the outcome is always the same, right? If you boil down what a company and any department inside of that company is trying to do, they're trying to build a thing that lots of people know about, that they like enough that they will choose to pay for it. That's it. There's really nothing else. If your company's doing anything other than that, it's probably not going to be around for very long. And so that turns into a pretty, like, okay, so anytime you're having a conversation, you're just trying to help them get that product in front of more people and show them why it's cool so that they want to pay for it, right? There's really never a disagreement on that point. I think the part that starts to fall apart is that if you say, well, the way that we make that happen is by clearing up these mountains of technical debt. They don't, like, if you're talking to a financial person, they don't get that. What they hear is, we want to stop shipping so that we can do coding work that isn't adding value directly. Whereas if you start saying things like, well, we really need to start working on our velocity by decreasing the amount of time that we spend on each project. And this is going to be one of those things there's going to be a little bit of a gradient here where it's going to be a little slower up front, but that leads to significantly higher performance. And we'll start to see that right out of the gate if we take on this project. Well, that sounds pretty good, because that means now your efficiency, your work units per dollar spent start to improve, right? So it starts to change the way that you have these conversations where, like, if I'm talking to engineering, like, hell yeah, we're cleaning up technical debt. I'm talking to accounting, efficiency per dollar. We're trying to improve the efficiency of our OpEx and CapEx, right? And it's like, that's the sort of thing that you learn by just going really broad. Like, I've sat in enough of these calls and I've been told why I'm wrong, and that they're not going to do this because of XYZ. And then I didn't understand what they meant by XYZ, so I went and learned about it. And then I realized, shit, we were saying the same thing. If I would have used the right words, then they would have understood that I was trying to do the thing they wanted. But I didn't know those words, so I was using words they didn't understand. And then they thought I was trying to do something that was just fun for me and not good for the business. So learning how to translate your idea into every department has been one of those unexpected benefits of the weird career that I've had, that has had really outsized impact on the way that I function now. Where are we at? Meeting on a regular cadence for board games is a game changer. Oh, that's a good idea. Like, I feel like the trick with regular cadences is that when you have regular travel, it's so hard not to break that. And, like, the speed with which we lost momentum when we had a regular game night. Like, I when I was in Austin, for example, I was playing an RPG. We were sort of like Dungeons and Dragons, but the one we were playing was Rogue 40K. And our Rogue Trader 40K. We did it like every 2 weeks for years, and it was amazing. And then a couple of us had like some travel stuff come up, and we missed a month, and it was like it just never happened again. We all broke the rhythm, and then getting it back on, it was like it's just over. And I travel so often, and my friends travel so often that like the likelihood that we can keep a consistent day is roughly zero. And that has been a consistent like wrench in the works for us. But yeah, I agree. Like if I was better at this, I would have a standing day. What's up, Fada? How you doing? Tech company in Seattle in 99. Yep. Just reading through the comments here. Finding it hard to cope with programming classes and also math classes. I honestly, I don't have a good answer for you because I am a college dropout, specifically because I thought that the way that they taught this stuff was not good, and I didn't want to keep doing it. So, yeah. Big connection between musicians and audio engineers becoming devs. You want to know the really sad thing that I've been realizing as I talk to more people? I think it's less of like a music to tech pipeline, and it's more of a, I did a thing that I loved, but there's no path to making a living to tech pipeline. So it's teachers, it's like nonprofit work, it's musicians, it's artists, it's like anybody who is trying to do a thing that has like a $30,000 a year income cap on it. And then they're like, yeah, man, I wish I just made more money. And if I made more money, maybe I could do the thing that I like. And so they go over into tech because tech has like, you know, theoretically, the limit does not exist for how much you can get paid in tech. So you can put together enough income to be able to do your hobby. And some folks are really good at this. I know some folks who like they found the right job. It's kind of a 9 to 5 for them. They go in, they do their work, they come home, they cash their 6-figure check, and then they do the thing that they love as a thing that doesn't have to make money. They don't have to care about it. That's really, I think that's really healthy. More folks, like I would say I'm one of them. I walked away from music because I didn't see a path to making a living doing music that wasn't like playing cover songs in bars until 2 a.m., which was not really a life I wanted to do. So I was like, well, I'll go into tech and then, you know, I'll do music on the side. And here I am 20 years later, certainly not doing music. Like I have the music stuff. Every once in a while I'll sit down and I'll like play guitar, or I'll plunk on a song and pop open Logic X and play. But like I'm not a musician anymore. And I think that's been the sort of unfortunate outcome for a lot of folks, is that you just sort of, you get swept up in other stuff and it takes you away from your hobby. Because if you're not all in on a hobby, especially in my case, like music for me was always a social thing, and I'm not dedicated enough to be able to like join a band because I don't want to be a professional musician. So I'd like, you know, get in a group, but I also don't want to be in one of those like casual groups where everybody's not very good. So so I have a very Goldilocks problem about what I want music to be. And I think the more accurate answer is like, it's not a thing I'm prioritizing. And as a result, this thing that was a huge part of my life has sort of become a thing I used to do. I've got some plans on how I can improve that. We'll see if I can. I'm working on it. But, you know, it's a whole thing. Where are we at? Some of the challenges I overcame. I feel like there are a lot, but it's also kind of, it's hard without having a specific thing, like a specific question. So I don't have a good answer. I'm gonna move on. Inspired a vibe coding show you're doing in Kenya. That's cool. Oh, nice. That's cool. what's the challenges you can say you got doing the Serious Web Dev Challenge? I mean, the problem with Web Dev Challenge is that like I have a vision for it, and the blocker is money. Like, there's no way to do a show where you've got teams for multiple weeks that doesn't just cost a ton of money, because the options for doing something like that are you do it on the weekends, which means that you're sending everybody home and bringing them back, which I guess in London is fine because later in the UK for the Great British Bake Off is fine because like you can get pretty much anywhere by train in the UK within a day's travel fairly reasonably, and the train tickets aren't crazy expensive. In the US, that's not really the case. Like if you're based in Atlanta and you've got to be out in Portland to film, then it's a full day of pretty terrible air travel. Costs $800 to $1,000 to do it. And if we do that for 8 weeks, that means for just one person, they're going to spend probably 16 days in an airplane and spend roughly $8,000 to make that possible. Times 16 people for the people who are on the show, and it just gets untenable really quickly to make it happen if you don't have a sponsor that's like fully bought into the vision. So the biggest challenges I see with Web Dev Challenge are figuring out how to make it as good as it can be given the limitations we have on spend. And that was why if you look at like season 0, it was all remote. It was the editing was done in a very specific way to kind of keep costs low. We did everything we could to try to make it really affordable so that it was possible to get something out there and like show the promise of the thing. And then when we got into season 1, we had more money, but not as much as we did in season 2. So we did the best we could with the limitations we had. And then we also were learning with every episode kind of what's working and what's not, what we could do better, what we feel like is going well. So we're trying to double down on that, make each episode a little stronger than the one before it. And all of that is just sort of, the challenge is finding the right amount of pushing to do. Because I didn't want to, at first I didn't want to do it at all until I could do it the way that it was in my head. And I think if that had been the choice I'd made, I never would have been able to make anything at all, because I'd still be sitting here saying like, come on, you just got to see this vision. And nobody can see the vision. I can't pull it out of my head and make it real. But because I'm incrementally stepping toward it and I can show people like, look, here's what I was able to do when I had this amount of money. If you let me take it further, if you want to sponsor this and make me capable of doing it at the next level that I see, imagine how much further we can go. And like, these are the bonuses that happen. This is what door gets opened by adding more money. Right. And so that is now possible because people are seeing season 2, and I'm having conversations with companies that are now willing to discuss much higher ticket prices because they can see the potential in it and they can see the return from what we're doing now. So the potential of doing it much bigger is realistic. It's within the bounds of possibility. So push it, but push it in a way that is acknowledging reality at the same time. Any tips for a new grad trying to learn skills for an experienced dev? So AI can't do what a junior dev can do. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. You are, at the end of the day, the thinking meat, right? AI is a prediction machine. It doesn't come up with ideas. It doesn't think about how different components of a machine fit together. It just does its best guess at how to accomplish the thing you put into it, right? So your job as a new grad, as somebody who's trying to become an experienced dev, I think is to build things both with and without AI. Like, learn how your tools work. AI is going to most likely be a tool that is in the stack in some way, right? Long before it was a hype word, things like natural language processing and image recognition, computer vision, that stuff was all built into our stacks before, right? And then AI kind of took off as a hype word. If you learn how this stuff works, if you learn how to build without it and then learn how to build with it, you're going to be very useful as a developer, and you're going to have opportunities, and you're going to learn things. Just build stuff, ship it, show people what you're working on. Keep doing that. Keep finding ways to entertain yourself, to challenge yourself, and keep kind of expanding what you're able to use. Because every time you build something, you've now added a thing that you can say you've used before, right? And if you use it in a way that you're trying to understand it and to where you can kind of explain what it did and why, then you're going to be adding skills to your tool belt that allow you to not just execute on something, which, like, if a plan exists, then sure, AI and a junior dev can do that. But if no plan exists, you can't just say, hey, AI, build the thing in my head, right? You have to be able to reason through that. You have to be able to articulate that. And being able to articulate what you want requires a certain level of understanding of how systems work. Because if you don't, like, if you don't understand how a system works, how can you say it needs to have like authentication and it needs to have like route-based access control? Like it is really difficult to describe a system without knowing some of the jargon that makes the systems work. You know, if you say give it a login, okay, that's great. What if you need to do I don't know, the ability to have an individual account as well as a team account, and somebody can be on multiple teams, but they'll still use the same individual account. They just need a drop down in the menu. What is that called? How do you describe that to an AI? What is that? You know what I mean? Like, if you've never done that stuff before, it's hard to figure out. And if once you have figured it out, you have the technical acumen and jargon to be able to like describe a system like that, map it out, think through how it should work. How does that sort of thing work? What does the database look like for a multi-tenant app? What does the permission structure work like? How do you control what somebody can see and what they can't? How do you make sure that if they have admin controls in this org, they don't have necessarily admin controls in every other org they're part of? This is all important stuff to be able to think through, and an AI doesn't necessarily know this stuff. It can only do it if you describe it really well in a spec. And so think about the fact that your value is not your ability to write a for loop. Your ability and your value is to think about why a for loop needs to be written in the first place. Sarfo, I don't know what you're posting, but I'm not seeing it. So I'm not sure if you're getting, like, if it's too much or if you're flagging it as, if it's getting flagged as spam or what, but I can't see the question that you're asking. So maybe ask it much shorter. For season 3 of Web Dev Challenge, the plan is to attempt teams. I want an arced season. So that's kind of the grand vision is how do we get it to be where we've got multiple teams, those teams get actually judged, and then we would vote a team off every episode to get us down to like a grand finale. That would open up the ability to put in some more like goofy challenges. I really want to do some games that they wouldn't work in the current format because we don't have time. We don't have a second day to film right now. And so we can't do like an extra round of warm-up games or something. And if we made it into the main game, it adds this element of unpredictability where I really don't want the only thing somebody gets a chance to do to be something that they could miserably fail at, right? So if I do a challenge where I'm going to switch your keyboard from QWERTY to Dvorak, and you have to hunt and peck your way through writing a program, and it turns out that that's a specifically difficult thing for you to do because everybody's got different like strengths and weaknesses. And like, if you put me under pressure, in certain situations, pressure is good for me. In other situations, pressure will make me crumble. And I don't always know which is which. So like, and we wouldn't be telling people beforehand what the game is going to be, so they couldn't even assess whether or not they're going to be good in a given situation. We just know they're going to be put in a situation that's going to test them. And if that's a warm-up game and it's fun and funny, great. I love it, because then there's a chance for redemption when you do the serious build. If we put in the fun and funny stuff with no chance for redemption and no follow-up episodes, then it's also kind of like there's a chance that somebody just comes on the show and only gets a chance to fail, and then is that's it. And I don't want that. I want people to have redemption arcs. I want people to have the ability to like do a thing and it definitely goes poorly, but then they just build something so incredible in the next build that it's like when you watch any of these shows, somebody just has a bad on the bake off, somebody has a bad bake, and you're like, I know you're better than that. But they're better than that because you've seen them on the first 3 episodes and you've seen how freaking talented they are. So when they have their bad bake, you're not going, oh, you suck as a baker. You're saying, man, what happened today? You're usually so good. And I want that sort of relationship to be possible in the show. And that's sort of where we're at. Do I have much interaction with Fabric when developing backend? I don't. I actually don't know what Fabric is, so that's going to be that'll be a new one for me. How can you introduce yourself to the tech community? I would say, like, look for communities that you feel like you belong in, and then be a member of them. Like, don't necessarily come out guns blazing. You wanna be somebody who is a member of the community, learn how it works, be helpful when you can, support other people. If there's a share your work channel, share your work in there. If there's not, don't spam people with things they don't want to see. If people are doing interesting stuff, support it. If people are working on projects, maybe you can contribute to them. If somebody has an interesting question that's got like a difficult answer, that's a great chance to do a little blog post, and then you can share it back and say like, hey, you kind of nerd sniped me on this, and I wanted to dig into it, so here's like an expanded response on that thing you were talking about. That's all great ways to sort of like build your initial connections, and the more of that you do, the more you are showing the community that you are like interested and engaged and that you're excited about this stuff, and they start to see your general brand of personality. Like, we're attracted to people who have vibes that are like ours, like if some people are very if you like you're into ultimate frisbee and rock climbing and you go and do that thing, you're going to find people who are into ultimate frisbee and rock climbing, and they're going to be your friends. It's like a social group thing. Like you sort of fall in with a group that does the same things that you do. And so like I'm not into ultimate frisbee, so most of my friends don't play, just because that's not a group that I hang out with. Doesn't mean I don't like them. It just means it's like a circle I'm not part of. But most of my friends are really into cooking because that's the circle that I'm in, and it's a thing that we talk about, and it's a thing that we're all kind of like showing each other what we're working on and what we're excited about, and sharing different recipes, and it's like that's the group that I'm in. So I think there's a lot of it is just keep building stuff and figure out where you're interested, and look for places that feel like they're into the same things you're into, and that's going to become your network. That's going to be the people who are interested in hearing what you have to say. I wouldn't trust just like broadcast social media anymore. It's just not the same as it was. The things that worked in 2007 don't work on Twitter, Blue Sky, etc. now. Like they're a little too, the algorithms don't work like that anymore. So focus on smaller communities. Like, still share your stuff in broad ways, but you can't just like have a daily blog and post it on Twitter and expect that's going to build a following. It won't. It just, I don't think it works that way anymore. So you got to be working on more like a smaller scale. Find a Discord, a Slack community, a forum, a Stack Overflow, whatever it is that you hang out in, that is the place that you can like be part of that group. Whatever. Is a multiplayer app built with Clerk, Convex, and React. I'm not gonna do live code reviews. That's it's not really a thing that I do. I still don't see the original question, so I apologize, Sarfo, but I'm not sure what you're asking. A new Microsoft product that is a centralized way of storing multiple databases with huge AI and machine learning use case. Oh, interesting. Okay, I think I've heard about this, but I haven't actually used it. But that's Live Code Roast. That's a different show. Live Code Roast would be a different show for sure. Anyways, where are we at right now? We're at oh dang, it's already 10 to noon. I have certainly not finished my water yet. Not even close, not even halfway. Okay, what's going on this week? So this week is going to be a quiet one from me because I have a flight going to Japan, and then I'll be out. So there's no Learn with Jason on Thursday. There's nothing next week. I'm out all next week, so no Tuesday show. So yeah, no office hours, no Learn with Jason, and then I get back on. I get back on Monday. I'm probably not going to do an office hours on the 7th because I'll probably be real jet lagged and need to do laundry and all that kind of stuff. So also, I kind of have a hunch that when I get back on Monday, my inbox is gonna sort of look, that scene from Community where Troy goes to get pizza. It's the Timelines episode, and he comes back and he's like holding pizza and everything is on fire and people are like bleeding and it's full chaos. I think that's what my inbox is going to look like when I get back on the 6th. So probably nothing on the 7th, but I'm going to get a show Learn with Jason put together on the 9th. So there will be more stuff going on there. We will have another episode of Web Dev Challenge coming on the 7th. That one is going to be with Goose, which is the tool from Block. It's kind of like an AI agent thing that works on your whole computer. You have the option to grant it like full permission to everything, which is a choice you can make. And it could, do all sorts of interesting stuff. I've heard some really cool use cases. The apps that got built were really fun. I think you will have a good time with that one. So that's what I got. That's what I'm doing. Finally, I don't have to do my taxes. What do you see both giving and robbing people of happiness and hope in their career? God damn, what a good question to have 9 minutes left to answer. Man, I want to like save this one and do it for real next time I'm on, but that's going to be in like a month. So let's take a crack at it now. Let's see how far we can go. I think that the thing that tends to be the biggest, there's so many little things. It's like it's not like a thing that you can just identify and then eradicate, and it's more of like this these hundreds of small things that just sort of like chip away, because there's stuff that's obvious, like comparing yourself to other people and thinking about like, why did this person get an opportunity when I didn't? And I guess if we boil all of it down to what builds, like what is happiness, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, but if you think about happiness, it's not a state, it's a choice. And so I think that a lot of times, if you get a good micro example of this is like when you get a compliment. If somebody says, "And you look really good today," you get to choose what that makes you feel like. You can choose to be uncomfortable and suspicious, like maybe somebody's trying to butter you up and get something from you. Or you can choose to believe that they're just being flattering. Or you can choose to believe that they actually thought you looked good today. And then, after you choose what you're going to believe about the statement that was made, you can choose how it makes you feel. And you can say, well, I don't look as good as I want to, or oh, I'm wearing this like grubby t-shirt, or whatever it is. Or you can say, thanks, that makes me feel good, right? And that choice is one of a million that we make every day when things are happening. And it's sort of that meme of the train car with the guy looking out one side and it's like dark, gloomy cliffs, and he looks all sad. And then a guy looking out the other window, and it's all sunny, and he's kind of got this great view because he's looking off the side of a cliff. Each one of those choices that we make, and these are in our careers. Some of them we have agency over, like, and so I'm mostly focused on the ones that we have agency over. You get to choose, like, if you build a project and you're proud of it, and you put it out there, and most of the people who see it say, "Man, that's really cool. Good job. I'm excited you launched this. Congratulations." And one person says, "This project sucks. Why didn't you build it in Next.js?" You get to choose which of those comments you're going to like think about for the rest of the day, right? And if the one negative comment is the one that you let sit in your brain, it's going to rob you of all of the joy of the thing that you did, and the satisfaction of like people and respect, because some anonymous rando threw an insult into your comment section in a drive-by. Somebody you've never heard of before just comes by and goes, "Oh, you suck," and you're like, "Oh man, that person's really in my head right now." And that can happen with like feedback on a project. Like, it's primarily good feedback, but there's like a couple things that you missed. Does that ruin your day, or does that give you the you're excited because you're almost there? You just got to fix this one thing, right? And it's this constant framing exercise of like, there are a million things happening, and at every point you can kind of get told like it's never going to be done. Like you're never finished with this stuff. There's always more work to do. So whenever you get a thing accomplished, is the choice to be like excited that you're making progress, or depressed that you're not done, or you're stoked that you did a pretty good job and just have a couple things left to clean up, or crushed that you got some criticism. And similarly, like with the work that you're doing, are you excited that you got to be challenged, or are you like angry that you're not working on, like if you wanted to be a video game designer and instead you work on an app for a big company? Like, are there things that you could like about it? Are there things that could be fun and challenging, and maybe there's a way to maneuver toward the things that you want to do? And I find that because of the way that most of our brains are wired, we default to one or the other, and it's really, really difficult to sort of switch out of that mode if you've got it built up to always look for like, what's the catch? You said something nice. What's the catch? Something good happened. What's the catch? I had a good day. When's the other shoe going to drop? Like that sort of outlook robs you of a lot of happiness. And I also think that turns into a cynicism. And I don't necessarily think that people need to be optimistic. I don't know that I would say I am an optimist, but I also choose to believe that things can improve. I'm not saying like, oh, it's going to get better, don't you worry. I feel like that's sort of like a silly optimism where you're just kind of saying it's going to be okay. It might not. It definitely might not be okay. But I choose to believe that it could be okay. I choose to believe that there is a path forward, that there are things that could get better. And that gives you things to hope for. If every sentence that comes out of your mouth is about how bad things are and how it's all doomed and it's all going to fall apart and all of these leaders are idiots and everybody who works here is dumb, like all these conversations that we have where it's just a sort of like constant hammering on the bleakness of it, the most hopelessness of it. I'm very carefully keeping this focused on work and not the broader world, but I say it applies broadly. The choice of where we put our attention, I think very seriously contributes to or robs us of our hope and happiness. And professionally speaking, I'm broadly simplifying this into the choices that we make. But I think if you take it in any situation, even the ones that you don't control, like if you're at a company and your leadership is genuinely like trying to keep you from doing a thing, you don't necessarily have an immediate choice where you can just say, all right, screw you guys, I'm going home, because like you need a job and the job market's gross right now. But you could choose to put some feelers out there and see what's available. And like maybe you got a friend who used to work there and now works somewhere else, and maybe they're looking for teammates, right? Like you can choose to be a little bit proactive about it instead of waiting until you rage quit or until the company folds or until you get laid off and now you have an emergency because you've got, however many months of severance or maybe no severance and you're living off savings and you have to find a job right now. Right. Whereas if you can kind of see the writing on the wall. This isn't a company that's going in the same direction I want to go in. It's not fulfilling to me to do this work. So I'm going to take some actions to change my situation. Right. And that could be looking for a new job. That could be learning some new skills so that you can try to maneuver horizontally inside the company. That could be starting to explore things that are different from maybe like, I know some friends who they went from engineering into engineering management, or they went from engineering into product management, or they went into DevRel, or they went into product marketing because they were interested in that. And they kind of saw like, hey, this is an opportunity for me. Maybe I can do something that's like more fulfilling. Like I had a lot of fun when I worked on this project, and most of what I did on that project was this other role. Let me try a little more of that, right? And a lot of times you have some of that maneuverability even internally at companies, and it's a very like each company is different and the politics are different and your situation is different. So take it with a grain of salt. But there's a choice. You have a choice, and you can choose to try to improve things, or you can choose to stay sad. And you don't always control what situation you're in or what options you have. But you do have options, and you can, generally speaking, in a lot of cases, you have the option to create more options. And I think that's an important one that I think it maybe stays off the table for some folks is like, hey, if you're in a situation and somebody says like, do you want door A or door B? You can look around and like there might be a door C that nobody's thought about yet, and sometimes you can go through that one. You also have the option not to go through a door, right? There's always other choices, and being willing to sort of explore that and make some choices on behalf of what you want to be, what you think it could be. But yeah, I think that's a whole thing. The progress principle. Yeah. That could be a good one to get at for sure. It's all going to fall apart unless I do something about the long deferred maintenance. I mean, yeah, kind of. Yeah. But I think that's sort of the game, right? Like that's really where we're at. So I think I'm very, I very much believe that, you know, we don't have control over the world around us, but we very much have agency over the way that we choose to respond to it and the way that we choose to react to the things that happen to us. And by making choices that reinforce the worldview we want to have, like, I don't necessarily think, you know, if somebody, like, you know, somebody compliments my outfit, I choose to believe that I can just feel good for that. Like, I don't have to make an excuse or hem and haw or say, oh, you know, this old thing, like, none of that. I can just say, yeah, thank you so much. That makes me feel great. And I try to do that in a lot of my life because it just leads to me feeling like things are okay. Like, they're bad in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of work that we need to do to make things better. But being sad doesn't make it better, right? Like, being sad is just sort of punishing yourself for something that you can't control. So if you can find a way to say, here's what's good, and here's what I'm going to do to try to make more good, that's a choice that we get to make. And I think that leads to more hope and happiness. I'm going to end it there. Thank you all so much for hanging out. I will see you after my vacation. Have a great couple of weeks.